I'd like to introduce now the film director of the campus events film program, Momita Sengupta.
Thank you. William Hurt's interest in acting emerged while he was a student at Tufts College, where he studied theology. In his third year, Mr. Hurt switched majors and left for London to study theater. When he returned to the States, he enrolled in the prestigious Juilliard School. After 3 years, he left Juilliard and took on several stage roles, building a considerable reputation in the theater community. In 1980, he made his film debut in Ken Russell's Altered States. Now, over the years, William Hurt has earned numerous accolades in both the world of theater and film. For instance, for his work in the play My Life, he won the Theater World Award, as well as Off-Broadway's highest form of recognition, the Obie. In 1984, he earned a Tony nomination for his performance in David Rabe's Hurly Burly. In film, he has been honored with 3 successive Academy Award nominations, and in 1985, he won the Oscar for his portrayal of the flamboyant Melina in Hector Babenco's Kiss of the Spider Woman. As you've seen in the film clips, William Hurt is an actor who goes beyond traditional boundaries and makes his portrayal of each character unique. With the Spencer Tracy Award, we acknowledge actors who complement their fellow actors on screen, and in some measure exemplify the understated gift of Mr. Spencer Tracy. William Hurt's dynamic screen presence and acting ability make him undeniably the ideal recipient of UCLA's first Spencer Tracy Award. Now, please welcome Mr. William Hurt.
We're pleased to present you with the Spencer Tracy Award, and I'd just like to read what we have in the plaque here. It says, the Associated Students of UCLA present the Spencer Tracy Award for outstanding screen performances and professional achievement to Mr. William Hurt, April 27, 1988.
I am extremely nervous. This is not my line of work. Crystal is the actor's gift, you know, and it means more to me, and has for years, than anything. So when I saw this backstage, I was really moved. I want to thank everybody involved in giving me this, Ms. Tracy especially. And I wrote a letter to Spencer Tracy. Would you like to hear it? Is that okay? This is going to take a few minutes. Okay. I was up till like 2 o'clock this morning doing this. I didn't know what to do. I have a hard time presenting things. It's the fun in acting is the other actor. So it's an intimate experience, and I can lose myself in it. I'm going to try to lose myself now. Dear Mr. Tracy, first off, I'd like to thank you for making this award possible for me. 74 films in 37 years. You did a lot more work setting this up for me than I have. Things are a little different now. The trail to character, one would think, would be easier to follow instead of slower. There are more of us now, and sometimes it seems cumbersome. We're up to something down here today you might have some mixed feelings about, but we're doing our best to keep them unmixed. For one thing, we're not competing. We're not at Santa Anita. Ostensibly anyway, which should be some relief. Another thing which may let you breathe a little easier is that some of us anyway are not going to take you as seriously as we do your work. I understand you said, why do actors think they're so damned important? They're not. Acting is not an important job in the scheme of things. Plumbing is. Some of us agree with you about plumbers being important. I happen to know a plumber named Bernie. Bernie's been around the block a few times. Once when he was a kid, Bernie was struck by lightning. And his St. Christopher medal got so hot it burned a tattoo into his neck. God's mark on Bernie. Bernie lived. Well, Bernie's a pretty crusty fellow in a lot of ways, and Bernie still has a little embarrassing trouble because of his humanity, accepting the fact that God loves him so much. Out loud anyway, Bernie doesn't talk lightly about the things that mean the most to him. But if any of God's children are more special than another, Bernie is, but he isn't, because it's not true. We're all special. Bernie knows this too. He just knows it more than some of us other kids. Like you, maybe. You'd like Bernie, even if he is an Italian Jew. Bernie wanted to be a rabbi before he went to jail. I understand you thought about being a priest before you became an actor. He reminds me a lot of you. He understands equality, and people who know him know more about equality. When I watch your work, Mr. Tracy, I seem always to be noticing on some level or other how your characters seem to stand on the ground. This doesn't sound like such a big deal till you think about some others and find you can't really tell where they're standing. It's an odd thing. It's like, well, real. It's like life, I think. He's standing on the ground. Hey, that's like me. I stand on the ground. He's sort of like me. Well, I'll be darned. Wow, think of that. Another thing I notice about the way I feel about myself when I'm looking at myself through you is that I don't spend a lot of time wishing I was you. I get more the feeling that I don't mind being myself. I hope you know what I mean, and excuse me if this embarrasses you, but I have to say it. Thank you, Mr. Tracy. Thank you very, very, very much for that. How do you feel about having an award named after you? Are you proud of that? I expect maybe you'd ask, well, what's it for? Does the guy act like I did? They called me an original. If that's what I am, then does this wimp following along in my in my shadow think highly of himself following along, or are they being tough enough on themselves, giving it to someone who's tough enough on himself? By all accounts, you were in a lot of ways pretty tough on yourself, Mr. Tracy, but the work says there's a reason for that. Now, I'm going to be real careful here, because it isn't for me or any man to judge you yourself, so I'm just going to let my heart interpret. And all I can tell my heart to listen to is the work, because the rest of it is personal, and the work's what you chose to give me. So I'll just pay attention to what you chose to hand out. Well, pal, I'm trying. And sometimes I'm pretty pleased, and most of the time I'm not. But I forgive that in myself. That is my privilege, to be serious and loving enough of the work to expect my best, and sometimes I try too hard. So maybe you can relate to that. Also, I think the only way to answer the question is to ask ourselves, not you. I have a feeling you might just let the question hang. Let it belong to us fools still whacking away down here. And excuse me again, thank you, Mr. Tracy. You're helping me grow up. You're still helping me grow up, even now while you're resting. And you are resting, aren't you? So you've left me something that lives. That's nice, Mr. Nice Guy. Now, I know for a fact that sometimes we learn courage in one place and then display it in another. And I happen to think I have an idea where you learned some of yours. What some may not know is that you could have learned it someplace else. It wouldn't have mattered, you would still have brought it to your acting. That's clear to us. You were an actor. Whatever limitations in your life you had to live with, you brought your compassion for yourself to us in your work. Despite, not because of. What you know now, we only have a glimpse of. We as yet see through the glass darkly, but not as darkly. I try not to bump into the furniture. I'm pretty good about remembering my lines. Until recently, when I met Anamorphic, was vain about my ability to hit my marks at the same time. Try Anamorphic on for size sometime. Geez Louise, just when you think you've got it licked. Someone dear to you wrote a letter asking what was it kept you from sleeping. Is it possible the response may have been, what was it not? Mr. Faulkner said, art is the subject of the conflict of the human heart. Didn't you simply choose to let that conflict surface till its map was written in your honest face, honest phrasing, honest listening, honest response? Do we not all live in the folds of skin, gravel of voice that were your map of that conflict? Don't you still guide us lovingly through its smooth and thorny surfaces, fearful or comforting valleys? And don't you always bring us through to the other side a little quieter, a little wiser, calmer so that we can sleep? Personally, I take a daunted, bristling pride at being compared to anyone, even you. Appropriately, unfortunately, it follows suit. There are some other suits that follow, even a few tricks, though I am always the butt of the joke of the tricks I try to pull. They never ever work, do they? Not if you've been foolhardy enough to make the truth your standard. As far as acting goes, I think of it more as whittling wood than plumbing. You may not think of that as useful. I do. Heck with you. I enjoy the work. Maybe too much. I think there are a lot of fools around. I think I'm one of them. Yeah, I know I got that one right anyway. Okay. There's a sailboat being built that I'm supposed to be called the skipper of. She's going to teach me a lot if I don't run her on the rocks first day. Since it's fairly sure bet that you like to hear true things spoken, at least that's the way we see you, don't laugh. I happened across some words in a book where my chances of repeating anything untrue from it are pretty well nil. So I'll end this letter with those words, so we can all shut up and remember who's the boss and be grateful. It's from the 107th Psalm. They that go down to the sea in ships, that do business in great waters, these see the works of the Lord and his wonders in the deep. For he commandeth and raiseth the storm, the stormy wind, which lifteth up the waves thereof. They mount up to the heaven. They go down again to the depths. Their soul is melted because of trouble. They reel to and fro and stagger like a drunken man, and are at their wits' end. Then they cry unto the Lord in their trouble, and he bringeth them out of their distresses. He maketh the storm a calm, so that the waves thereof are still. Then are they glad because they be quiet. So he bringeth them unto their desired haven. Oh, that men would praise the Lord for his goodness and for his wonderful works to the children of men. From captains courageous to the old man in the sea, from your priests to your madmen, to your drunks to your straight arrows, from your righteous to your self-righteous, your loving to your beloved, cantankerous to magnanimous, thank you for your rooted, testing, skeptical, grounded love. Sleep well, your pal Bill. So that's that.
There's not too much to say after that, but it was really a beautiful letter. And I think on behalf of Ms. Tracy and Camps Events, thank you very much for that. Right now, I'd like to introduce the moderator of the question and answer portion of the program. He's a distinguished director, and he's the chair of the UCLA's Theater, Film, and Television Department, Professor George Schaefer.
Thank you. Why
don't you sit down and to ask questions, there are microphones in the center two aisles. You know, we started a little late, and we hope you stay in your seats, and we can go on for about 15 more minutes. So don't leave, and there's a lot more to come. Thank you.
Very good. I think we're more interested in questions that are on your mind than... Okay. Who wants to start?
Yeah, a lot of sense.
Yes? Somebody's at a
I
microphone.
got a question over here.
Over there, right.
Like Whitman Wood, and I was fascinated that you said acting was like Whitman Wood. Could you expand?
It's very careful. Keep a copy of Hamlet open in my house. About you, and as I may say, whirlwind of your passion, you must acquire and beget a temperance that will give it. And it's as intimate and sometimes lonely as writing. At least that's the way it is. It's very specific.
Right.
Over here.
Over here? Oh, sweet.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to congratulate you again on your award. What justification did you use to decide, I'm going to get out of this?
I don't often. Like to do. I think of the theater as a ritual. I think of it the same. I try to think of it the same way the Greeks and the Romans had in mind, as a purgation of pity and fear, so that we are relieved to enjoy our lives. And I thought, why not? I want to do that. So that's basically it.
Good answer. Now we go back over here. Yeah.
Sorry?
I've appreciated your work for many years, and I have a quick question for you. That it seems that in much of your work you dig very deep and work very internally. And I'm curious as to when you work with a director, what it is you seek from that person besides perhaps just a mirror to it.
When I was working on a play called Hurly Burly in New York, I received a letter from a student, and he said I could write him between 250 and 750 words. A response. I could, but not more than 750 words. Thank you. On the subject of what I required from a director, and I just didn't have the time, to come up with 750 words, so I didn't really think he might get anything out of it anyway, but as I was throwing in the ash can, which is unfortunate, I'm sorry I have to admit that, I thought one word: sanction. The director is responsible primarily for being that objective eye. That once we agree that the structure of the material is worth it, that the questions the material asks are worth it, the theme of the material is worth it, and that the choices we explore in rehearsal are the ones we're going to go with, I then have to go off on a subjective trip. I have to submit myself to the imaginative realities. He is the objective trip, and I have to trust him to be the eye that is outside, because I cannot be thinking about what I look like when I'm doing it. I just can't be thinking about what it's meant to achieve or anything. I have to think about what my job is. The requirement of sanction covers so many bases. He has to understand my craft. Otherwise, he won't know how to protect me. That's a big question. Very important question. He's a port authority of ideas. He makes sure that the buses move, amongst all the departments, and that includes me. And you have to look for an individual who does not have his energy completely wasted and dissipated on the arbitrary responsibility that is placed on him of administration, which I find to be an imbalance in the system. Sorry, it's
that is the best description I have ever heard of my life's calling. I'm glad that I went to it. Next question over here.
I was really impressed with your work in Children of a Lesser God, and I was wondering how your work with deaf children and learning sign language affected your perceptions about life.
Oh.
A simple question.
I don't know. Is a problem, but we don't even sometimes take our images seriously. They do. They think and communicate in pictures if they go to the level of ASL and don't relate it to spoken word. Also, obviously, we are all crippled in some way. And I think, Tracy knew that. And it gives us strength. But that's a big question, too.
This side.
This may not be the most mature question in the world, but we've been waiting
Well,
to ask it.
it's okay.
Once in a lifetime chance. Would you mind taking a picture with us?
Who's us? Right now? You want this right now?
Wait till after.
Later. That's
Yeah, I'll do it. But we will do it.
all right.
Put that on the schedule.
One dumb question out of four. That's not bad.
That's not dumb. Pictures.
I tend to think, whether correctly or not, that all actors, a part of themselves are in the character, or a part of the character is in themselves. With which character would you say you identify?
This is naughty. It's a very naughty question. La Rochefoucauld said actors are like lovers. They never cease to talk about themselves, something like that. I don't see acting as narcissism. I don't identify totally with one character more than another. I think of it as a craft. I approach each role in the same way, whether I'm solving the Jacobean drama or the modern genres in film. I approach them exactly the same. In terms of my personality, I wouldn't answer the question if I felt it. But since my primary concern is structure, my identification with character doesn't come until after I've sorted out whether the project is worthy to belong to in the first place on any level, let alone how I may contribute to it through the character. But I really don't personally. I identify with all of that.
Do you try to use part of yourself, or do you resist using part of yourself as you jump to such a variety?
Greater and lesser extents. As you study, you begin to study the essential question, which in the theater is what is the line between reality and fantasy. So for an actor, what that becomes is what is acting and what is acting out. And I don't like to act out in public. Acting is, to me, if I have not crafted enough of a mask, either as a concept or physically or whatever, to protect my privacy as a human being, then I cannot share with you what I know about all of our souls. And And so, you do use yourself, sure, but then you have to differentiate that enough to make sure that it is an image up there rather than you. That's a be real careful about that.
Fascinating. One more from this side.
Hi, first of all, I'd like to say I think you're really classic artists after having you here today. And I have two questions. The first one is, if you'd like to be remembered for anything years and years from now, what would it be? And also, after the answer...
Oh, dress. One day a year. I'm sorry? What?
I couldn't hear it.
What would you say?
What was the second?
Can I shake your hand after the answer?
Yeah,
another
when it
smart
warms
question.
up.
You want to attempt the first one, or is that finished?
First what?
The first question, such as it was.
Oh, those
What
questions.
you want to be remembered?
Oh, remembered. Oh. By whom?
For having come to UCLA
No,
on April
yeah,
27th.
yeah.
Next
Think,
question over here.
Right.
I'm curious to know to what degree your experience at Ashland has affected your growth as an actor.
A lot. That was the first job for me, really. I had done some summer stock before then. I was paid more than I'd ever been paid before. $65 a week. A lot. It was the first time I acted well. It was in a production of Long Day's Journey into Night, and I had been working hard for 12, almost 14 years, and I acted well for the first time, and I did it very ordered way, and I knew what I had done for a change, and so that was real important for me. Personally. I also very much had made a decision with my life that certain middle-of-the-road choices were not the ones I wanted to make. So I split.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very good. I fear that it's gotten after when we started late, and there are obviously a million questions, but I'm afraid you all have to get to classes and things, do you?
No.
All right, we'll take two more questions, one from each side, and then we'll have to go. One more question from each side. A good one now.
Okay, I want to ask you, the character of Molina is so eccentric and different from...
No, he's not. You're eccentric. I started out working on homosexuality, and then very quickly I realized that wasn't the point, or at least I thought it wasn't. I started working on the woman, and that was when things started falling into place. Because I can't really explain that. I don't. It's tough to explain that. I got around, and then I worked specifically with a woman named Mara, who's a dancer. And she lives in Brazil. And I worked like days just watching her move. And talking, trying to get some impression of the sequences of thought and impression. And that was the key for me. It was when I found Molina to be a woman in a man's body, rather than some other overcomplicated psychological evaluation, because that wasn't really the point of the film. That we have all things inside us, and cutting off from their purities and sort of creating an apologia right from the beginning that one thing is another, or that they are somehow mixed rather than existing side by side simultaneously. That was when I started getting freer. I don't know. Then one day, Raul and I switched roles, and he showed me what his idea was. I thought, that's good.
Hey, last question now, right over here.
Oh, gosh. Could you tell me,
Weird,
please,
isn't it?
what attracted you to the role of Martin in A Time for Destiny? I saw it here last weekend.
The screenplay. The structure of the screenplay.
Because it
was
seems
really
so different.
gorgeous. Huh?
It seems so different than the work
It
you
is
did in the
different.
past.
I mean, it's, the structure is Wagnerian and weighty, and the American palate may have trouble moving into that because we tend more to be appealed to through the colloquial structures. And that's nothing to say. That's not to say that they're not viable or real. But also there's this fascinating thing about the transitions of cultural amelioration, and I don't know, if I get the impression that we're as aware as is true of how we are, as Americans or as anybody, really living with everybody else on the planet, and we are going through these massive struggles of trying to find identities amongst these intermingling cultures, and this is like a wrenching experience and very hard, and you find that it metastasizes in the form of schizophrenias and all these other things, but what's really happening is the world is getting smaller, and we are becoming closer to one another on very basic levels. And that was what intrigued me.
Thank you.
Also,
Thank you.
Lots of things.
I think
More. Wait. No. I could go on. No,
Go on here.
talk too much.
Okay. Thank you, Richard.
So, how did I do?
Once again, thank you to George Schaefer, William Hurt, and you. Thank you.